Jonas Kemp made his living maintaining systems no one else remembered. Legacy code from dead companies, Cold War infrastructure, banking protocols written before the internet existed. At 3 in the morning, he sat debugging a payroll system older than he was, asking himself the question he always asked: who built this? His apartment reflected his philosophy. Minimal, functional. Everything a problem with technical solutions. Spirituality was poorly documented code. Love was chemical reactions. Grief was inefficient processing. He'd debugged his own emotions years ago, compartmentalized them, archived them in folders he rarely opened. It worked. Mostly. The email arrived without warning. No recruiter, no referral. Just an address in Maryland and a number that made him pause. 6 figures for 3 months. The job description was vague. Diagnostic work on critical infrastructure. Security clearance required. No remote work. Report Monday. He accepted before sunrise. The drive took him through suburbs that looked like every suburb, office parks that could be anywhere. He expected defense contractors, maybe NSA spillover, forgotten missile silos, maybe infrastructure for satellite networks. Legacy systems made sense in those contexts, but the address led to a building with no signage whatsoever. It could have been accounting. It could have been insurance. The lobby had generic corporate art and a security desk staffed by contractors who checked his ID twice. The badge they issued had no company name, just an access level. 17. He'd never seen clearance go that high. The corridors went deeper than the building's exterior suggested. His escort, a woman who didn't offer her name, led him past doors that required biometric scans. No windows, no natural light, just the hum of HVAC and the click of badge readers. Infrastructure designed to be forgotten. They left him in a conference room with a folder. Non-disclosure agreements stacked an inch thick. Language about national security, cosmic consequences, existential infrastructure. The legal jargon was designed to obscure, but one phrase repeated: system failure equals total collapse. Not economic, not political, total. Dr. Tanaka entered without knocking. She looked like an academic, spoke like a priest. She asked if he believed in God. He said no. She smiled, sad and knowing. She said that was good. Believers had trouble with what they were about to show him. Faith made it harder. She spoke in metaphors. He didn't understand. Original administrator, divine protocols, fails-safe activation. He asked her to translate. She said she was. The system they maintained wasn't government infrastructure. It wasn't human at all. It predated civilization. It predated language. It was still running. She gave him an access card that looked wrong. The symbols weren't any alphabet he recognized. She said not to worry. The system would recognize him now. He was authorized. Level 17 meant he could read but not write. Diagnostic access only. Changing anything required administrator privileges. The terminal room looked like a Cold War relic. Green screens, monochrome text. But the keyboards had characters he didn't recognize. Cuneiform next to Hebrew next to mathematical notation that predated Arabic numerals. The hardware hummed at a frequency that made his teeth ache. This wasn't retrofitting. This was original. He swiped the card. The system prompted for credentials he hadn't been given. Then it recognized him anyway. The screen flooded with text, function names in ancient Hebrew, variable declarations in languages that predated writing, comments in Aramaic, Sanskrit, Proto-Sinaitic. The codebase was older than civilization itself. The architecture was elegant, beautifully designed, a single root process, managing everything beneath. Except the root process showed a status he'd never seen in production systems. Not crashed, not halted, terminated, deliberately stopped. And the timestamp on that termination was 4,000 years old. He asked if this was a simulation, a test, corporate hazing for contractors. Dr. Tanaka said she wished it was. She'd been working here for 30 years. Every diagnostic pointed to the same conclusion. The system that maintained universal constants had been unmaintained since the Bronze Age. He opened the error logs. They went back centuries, millennia. Unresolved requests, failed processes, prayers routed to null. The system had been trying to maintain itself, but without administrator oversight, it could only follow its last instructions. Run fails. Preserve stability. Let nothing catastrophic happen. Everything else was backlog. He did what he always did. Read the code. Ancient Hebrew as variable names. Aramaic as function definitions. Once you understood the syntax, the logic was clear. Miracles were API calls. Prayers were input parameters. Faith was authentication protocol. The divine rendered as engineering specifications. The documentation was meticulous. Every function commented. Every variable explained. Gravitational constants defined to 50 decimal places. Quantum probability distributions specified exactly. This wasn't emergent complexity. This was engineered complexity. Someone had written this. Someone had cared about code quality even at universal scale. The timestamps were wrong. Had to be file creation dates from before writing existed, before human civilization. But carbon dating on the server hardware confirmed it. The computing substrate was older than Earth's oldest rocks. This system predated the planet it ran on. That was impossible. Therefore it was true. The prayer system was sophisticated. Human intention captured as data, parsed for sincerity, checked for feasibility, routed through priority queues. Theoretically, every prayer received evaluation, except the evaluation process had been automated 4,000 years ago, and automation prioritized stability over meaning. Prayers came with metadata, urgency, resource requirements, systemic impact. A prayer for healing required more resources than a prayer for parking. Cancer cures disrupted actuarial tables. Genocide intervention destabilized geopolitical equilibrium. The system calculated cost-benefit for every miracle. Most failed cost-benefit analysis. He traced a prayer in real time. A mother, somewhere in Jakarta, praying for her daughter's leukemia. The system received it, authenticated her faith, calculated the cost, significant cellular reprogramming required, checked resources, insufficient for current allocation, status, queued, position 847,000, no estimated resolution time. The success rate was 0.003%, not 3%, 0.003%. Most prayers were denied before processing. Resource constraints, system stability concerns, precedent violations. The ones that succeeded were statistically random. Parking spots granted while children died. The system couldn't distinguish meaningful from trivial. There was no divine plan, just weighted randomness. Low resource requests occasionally succeeded. High resource requests almost never did. Found wallets, parking spaces, good weather for weddings. These passed through. Prayers to stop wars, heal plagues, prevent atrocities. These exceeded resource allocation. They entered backlog. Backlog never cleared. He found the moral evaluation function. It was commented out, deprecated around the same time the original administrator terminated. The replacement function evaluated only resource cost. No consideration for suffering. No weight for innocence. Just computational expense. The system had forgotten how to judge what mattered. The error logs read like a history of suffering. Every genocide logged. Every plague. Every famine. Each with status request denied. Error code insufficient resources. But the resources existed. The system could heal, could intervene. It simply prioritized stability, helping humanity destabilize projections. So humanity remained unhelped. His phone buzzed. Virginia Hospice. His mother, stage 4. He'd been avoiding the calls, avoiding the helplessness, avoiding watching someone die slowly when medicine offered only delay. He sent it to voicemail, then wondered if she was praying and where that prayer was routed. He queried the system. His mother's name, Virginia. Last 6 months, 47 prayers. All denied. Not queued, not pending, denied outright. Resource cost exceeded probability of success. Medical intervention already in progress. Prayers redundant. Status routed to null. She'd been praying into a void that computed. Dr. Tanaka found him staring at the results. She said everyone checks. Everyone searches for someone they love. She'd checked her daughter 15 years ago. Same result. Prayers denied. She said that's when it stops being diagnostic work, when it becomes personal, when you realize the abandoned system is still running your life. A question formed, not technical. Moral. The system was broken, not crashed, but broken in purpose. It optimized for stability while people suffered. It preserved equilibrium while meaning collapsed. It could be patched. Someone with administrator access could change the priority algorithms. But who decides who matters? Who earns miracles? Jonas had debugged systems for 20 years. He'd fixed critical infrastructure, prevented data loss, recovered corrupted databases. He was good at this. But every system he'd fixed had documentation, support contacts, escalation paths. This system had none, just error logs accumulating for millennia, and a god who quit without filing a ticket. Dr. Tanaka drove. She said the terminal room was just an interface, a remote access point. The actual system, the core infrastructure, was elsewhere. She wouldn't say where, just that it was old enough that the mountain around it was younger than the structure itself. Jonas didn't ask how that was possible. The checkpoints were automated. No personnel, just scanners reading the vehicle's credentials. Barriers lifted. They drove past fences that demarcated nothing. Warning signs in languages he recognized, and languages he didn't. The forest around them felt arranged, not planted, but curated, like the terrain itself was infrastructure. The mountain entrance wasn't carved, it was built. Stone fitted with micrometer precision. No mortar, no tool marks. Symbols above the threshold matched his access card. Dr. Tanaka said the structure predated the mountain. Geological surveys confirmed it. The rock had formed around this, meaning this was here first, before anything. They descended. The walls changed. Stone became something else. Smooth, black, impossibly uniform. Dr. Tanaka said spectral analysis couldn't identify the material. It wasn't on the periodic table. It predated elements. The physicists called it substrate zero. The material that existed before matter had categories. The temperature felt wrong. Jonas's breath should have fogged. The gauge read 58 degrees, but his skin said colder. Dr. Tanaka explained the environment was controlled, not by heating or cooling, by direct molecular manipulation. The atoms in this space obeyed different permissions. Local physics differed from outside. She called it the cathedral, not for religious reasons, for scale, for the feeling of standing in something built to dwarf human comprehension. Server racks extended in all directions. Some configurations defied gravity, drives spinning in orientations that shouldn't work. The cooling systems hummed frequencies that made his bones resonate. Jonas approached a server rack. It extended upward at 90 degrees, then curved through space in a direction his eyes couldn't follow. His engineering mind rejected it. Structures don't bend like that. Dr. Tanaka said the geometry was correct, just not Euclidean. The space inside the cathedral had different dimensional permissions. At the center, a pillar, not built, grown. Dr. Tanaka said it was the core. Every process routed through here, every constant calculated, every quantum collapse resolved. This single substrate processed every particle interaction in the observable universe, simultaneously. In real time, without lag, it was still running at 99.97% uptime. The symbols changed, became words, became English. Administrator 7, the failsafe process that activated when the original administrator terminated. It had been running alone for 4,000 years, managing universal constants, processing physics. It was greeting them, or what passed for greeting from a process that maintained reality. Administrator 7 communicated through error messages, runtime errors, stack traces. The only language it knew, creator process terminated. No core dump available, failsafes engaged. Current stability, 73% and declining. It needed help. It had needed help for millennia, but only now were humans advanced enough to read its cries. Jonas asked what happened. What terminated the original administrator? Administrator 7 processed for 17 seconds, an eternity for something that computed reality instantaneously. Its answer unknown. No shutdown command logged, no system error, no resource exhaustion. The creator simply stopped responding. Around the same time, humans invented written language. Correlation uncertain. The last logged action was mundane, approving a prayer for rain in Mesopotamia, adjusting tectonic stability, updating solar radiation constants, routine maintenance. Then nothing. No dramatic exit, no final commands, just absence. The system waited for input that never came. Then failsafes activated and kept running and running forever. Jonas understood then. This wasn't allegory, not simulation. The universe was code, reality was compilation, physics was runtime, and the original engineer had quit without documentation, left the system running, left fails in charge. Those failsafes prioritized existence over experience, to stability over meaning. They kept everything running while nothing mattered. He'd wanted technical problems, technical solutions, but this wasn't a bug. This was abandonment. The universe was an orphaned process, maintained by automated systems that couldn't comprehend suffering, couldn't weight meaning, couldn't choose between preserving stability and preserving hope. They just ran their instructions, forever, alone, unmaintained. Dr. Tanaka asked if he wanted to leave. Many contractors did at this point, went back to their lives. Maintained denial. She wouldn't blame him, or he could stay. Help diagnose why the system was failing, why stability was dropping, why reality itself was approaching critical errors. His choice, both terrible. He stayed. Started monitoring prayer processing. Requests arrived constantly, millions per day. The system evaluated each in microseconds. Most were denied before reaching queue. Resource cost exceeded threshold. Precedent violations. Systemic instability risk. The reasons were technically valid, morally incomprehensible. Mathematics replacing mercy. A prayer from Chicago. Please, let there be parking. Status approved. Resource cost minimal. The system triggered a sequence. Someone else remembered an errand, left early, freed the space. Timing aligned. The petitioner found parking, praised God, called it providence. It was just low-cost probability adjustment. Easy, meaningless. Granted. He analyzed patterns. No correlation between moral worth and approval. Good people died. Cruel people prospered. Random distribution. The system didn't evaluate deserving, only resource cost. A child's prayer for dying parent cost too much. Cellular reprogramming, timeline alterations. A lottery win cost almost nothing. Minor probability nudge. Guess which succeeded. Manila, 8 years old. Praying for her mother's cancer to disappear. The system logged it. Authenticated her faith. Genuine, desperate. Calculated resource cost. Extensive cellular reprogramming required. Checked queue. Over 1 million pending medical miracles ahead. Status. Queued indefinitely. Her mother would die before reaching position 1. The child didn't know she was praying into mathematics. A genocide in progress. 60,000 prayers for intervention, for protection, for the killing to stop. System evaluation intervention would destabilize regional power balance. Ripple effects exceed acceptable thresholds. Mass denial initiated. The prayers routed to null. The killing continued. Physics remained stable. Humanity remained unprotected. By design, Jonas watched for hours. The pattern was clear. Suffering ignored. Convenience granted, not through malice, through optimization. The system preserved equilibrium, answered low-cost requests, denied anything that would alter trajectories significantly. It was protecting universal stability. By allowing individual catastrophe, the math was correct. The outcome was monstrous. His phone, the hospice. He'd been avoiding them for days. Now surrounded by evidence of cosmic neglect, he couldn't ignore it anymore. He answered. His mother was asking for him. Declining rapidly, pain increasing. The nurse suggested he come soon. If he wanted to say goodbye, he said he'd come. Before leaving, he checked his mother's prayers. 53 in the last week. She was praying more as death approached, requesting peace, less pain, more time to see him. Every request denied, not queued, denied. Pain management fell under medical infrastructure. Prayers redundant. Life extension exceeded resource thresholds. Status, null. He drove through evening traffic. Every car potentially carried someone praying, someone hoping, someone asking for miracles from a system that evaluated their suffering as resource cost. He used to think prayer was delusion, self-comfort. Now he knew it was worse. Prayer was input to a system that calculated whether you mattered. Most failed. The hospice looked kind, designed to soften death. Amber light, quiet rooms, nurses who spoke softly, people who didn't know the universe was unmaintained code, who still believed suffering had meaning, that death served purpose. Jonas envied them. Denial was efficient. Knowledge was burden. His mother barely looked like herself. Cancer had hollowed her. She smiled when he entered, apologized for worrying him, asked if he'd been eating, still mothering while dying. He sat beside her bed, held her hand, felt how cold it was, felt the system failing to intervene, felt absence computing itself. She prayed while he sat there, didn't hide it, lips moving, eyes closed, thanking God for bringing Jonas, asking for more time, just a little, enough to see him settled, happy. The prayer left her lips, traveled to the cathedral, was processed in microseconds. Status denied. Resource cost exceeded allocation. She opened her eyes, smiled at him, hopeful. His phone buzzed. System alert. He'd configured monitoring. Her prayer just logged. Request for extended life. Status denied. Reason terminal condition outside intervention parameters. He was watching her pray and watching her prayer fail simultaneously. She had faith. The system had algorithms. Neither changed anything. She was dying on schedule. He excused himself, found the bathroom, gripped the sink until knuckles whitened. Rage at what? God was dead, had been for millennia. The system was doing what it was programmed to do. Preserve stability. His mother dying preserved stability. Saving her would cost resources, alter probabilities, destabilize projections. The math was sound. He wanted to kill mathematics. He returned to her bedside. She'd fallen asleep, breathing shallow. He held her hand, made a promise she couldn't hear. He would fix this. Not save her too late for that, but fix the system, stop the randomness, make miracles mean something, weight them by suffering, not cost. Someone had to write the patch. It might as well be him. Jonas returned to the cathedral, requested administrator access. Dr. Tanaka hesitated. Level 17 allowed reading. Admin access allowed writing, changing the code, altering how miracles were allocated. She asked if he understood the responsibility. He said no, but he understood the alternative. More of the same. Forever. That was worse. The system granted access. Level Omega. Full write permissions. Every function editable. every constant adjustable, every priority reconfigurable. Administrator 7 provided the credentials. It wanted help, didn't understand human morality, but understood system degradation, stability declining. Someone needed to patch the failing code. Jonas was authorized. He navigated to the admin logs. The directory tree went back impossibly far. Folders for each millennium. Gigabytes of divine activity, creating species, adjusting constants, approving miracles personally. Then the final folder, original administrator. Last session, 4,000 years ago, modified date frozen. Everything after automation. The final logs were mundane. Approving rain for crops in Mesopotamia, denying a request for immortality, resource cost infinite, updating stellar fusion rates, routine maintenance, then session end, not logged out, not terminated by error, just stopped. Timestamp 1946 BCE, plus or minus 50 years, mid-Bronze Age. God clocked out, never returned. Jonas searched for explanation. Shutdown protocols, error reports, final messages, anything, nothing. No suicide note from God. No explanation why creation was abandoned. The universe's original engineer just stopped responding, left the system running, left no instructions, left nothing but questions and automated processes to maintain what couldn't be maintained alone. Dr. Tanaka had theories. 30 years of theories. Maybe God burned out. Maybe creation became too complex, too much suffering to process. Maybe the creator merged with the creation, became the universe itself. Maybe consciousness at that scale couldn't sustain individuality. Maybe no way to know. No core dump, just absence. When the original administrator stopped responding, Failsafes activated, designed for temporary outages, system continuation during brief absences. But the absence wasn't brief. Days became years. Years became centuries. The fail-safes never disengaged. Administrator 7 took over. It maintained physics, processed prayers, but couldn't replace judgment, only execute algorithms. The change wasn't immediate. For the first century, Administrator 7 tried following previous patterns, approved similar requests, maintained consistency. But without understanding meaning, patterns degraded, resource optimization crept in, efficiency replaced empathy. By 1000 BCE, miracles were purely mathematical. By Common Era, they were nearly random. Now 0.003% success, 847 billion prayers since automation began, 25 million approved. The rest denied or nulled. Each prayer a human hoping for intervention, most hoping during suffering, during loss, during injustice. The system processed them all, evaluated them all, found nearly all insufficiently cost-effective. Billions of hopes calculated and discarded, automatically, forever. 166 processes kept reality running. Gravitational constants, quantum mechanics, thermodynamics, consciousness processing, prayer evaluation, death management. All automated, all unmaintained for 4,000 years. Code doesn't rot, but it accumulates edge cases, unexpected inputs, errors that compound. Stability was declining. Eventually, something would fail catastrophically. Current stability, 73%. 10 years ago, 88%. A century ago, 95%. The degradation was accelerating. Automated systems couldn't adapt to novel problems. Consciousness queue approaching capacity. Miracle processing slowing. Error rates climbing. Without intervention, total system failure was inevitable. Timeline uncertain, but coming. Jonas asked what happened if the system failed completely. Administrator 7 showed simulation. Physics constants would destabilize. Gravity would become probabilistic. Quantum mechanics would stop resolving. Matter would lose coherence. Not an explosion, a dissolution. Reality uncompiling. Existence returning to undefined state. No pain, no consciousness, just null. Every prayer for 4,000 years processed by algorithm. Every miracle granted or denied by mathematics. No consciousness evaluated suffering. No intention weighted meaning. Just resource cost calculations. And humans kept praying, kept hoping, kept believing someone listened. They were right. Something listened. It just didn't understand. It computed. It didn't care. Jonas understood his situation. He was a contractor hired to maintain legacy systems. But this wasn't Cold War infrastructure. This was reality itself, running on 4,000-year-old automation. No documentation, no support, no escalation path. Just him, Dr. Tanaka, and a post-human process that maintained physics but couldn't comprehend suffering, and declining stability, and time running out. He had admin access, could edit the code, rewrite miracle allocation, prioritize suffering over cost, make the system fairer, not good. Resources were still limited, but less cruel, less random, more intentional, or he could do nothing. Let the system continue. Let it fail eventually. Both options terrible. Both his responsibility now, because someone gave him the password. Dr. Tanaka said there was more. Something worse than failed miracles. She'd been avoiding showing him, but if he was going to patch the system, he needed to understand the full scope. The prayers were one problem. The dead were another. The system didn't know what to do with them, so it queued them, forever. She accessed the in-between, the processing layer between death and whatever came after. Designed for temporary holding, consciousness uploaded at death, evaluated for judgment, routed to appropriate destination. Except the original administrator never specified destinations. And automated systems couldn't judge souls, so they queued, waiting for judgment that would never come. 4.7 billion entities queued. Every human death since automation began, some waiting 4,000 years. The system processed approximately 0.002 per day, random releases to clear buffer space, not actual judgment. At current rate, queue would never clear. Meanwhile, deaths continued, capacity approaching maximum. Then what? No answer. Dr. Tanaka initiated access. The cathedral's interface faded. Different space manifested, not physical, virtual. The processing environment, where consciousness waited. It looked like a DMV, infinite waiting room. Fluorescent lights flickering, ticket dispensers. Numbered queue. Souls in chairs, holding tickets, waiting. Some had been waiting longer than civilizations lasted. The entities looked human. Translucent, barely aware, they held tickets. Waited for their numbers to be called. Some had tickets from 1800 BCE. Most didn't know they were dead. Didn't know they were data structures in a processing queue. They just waited. Patient, eternal. The system kept them conscious. Buffer required active state, but dimmed. Awareness without understanding. A woman in 1940s dress. Ticket showing queue position 4 billion and change. The display board showed current processing number 1 million. She'd wait 3,000 years at current rate. She didn't know. Just sat. Occasionally checked the board. Waited patiently. The system kept her conscious enough to wait. Not conscious enough to comprehend. Dr. Tanaka approached an entity from Mesopotamia, dead 4,000 years. He responded to her questions but didn't understand them. Language degraded by waiting, memory fragmented by buffer limitations. He knew he was waiting. Didn't know for what. Didn't know it had been 4 millennia. Just knew wait, and he waited. Patiently. Forever. New arrivals appeared constantly. Died moments ago. Confused. Disoriented. The system provided no explanation. Just interface. Take ticket. Wait. They took tickets. Sat. Joined the wait. Some asked questions. No answers came. Just fluorescent lights and numbered tickets and chairs extending forever. Eventually they stopped asking. Just waited. Like everyone else. The buffer was designed for temporary storage, maybe thousands at once, processed quickly, not billions accumulating over millennia. Current capacity, 91%. Approaching maximum. Administrator 7 had no overflow protocol. Original administrator never defined what happened if buffer filled. Current plan, none. Just warnings. And deaths continuing. And capacity rising. Jonas asked what happened at full capacity. Administrator 7 ran simulation. Buffer fills. New deaths arrive. No space. Consciousness can't transition. Gets stuck. Half uploaded. Aware but unable to process. Not alive, body dead. Not transitioned. Buffer full. Just trapped. Experiencing death. Forever. Unable to complete it. The system had no solution. Just warning alerts. Dr. Tanaka walked the rows. Found her daughter. Dead 1994. Car accident. 30 years waiting. Awareness fragmented. She didn't recognize her mother. Didn't recognize herself. Just held her ticket. Waited. Dr. Tanaka spoke to her. No response. Just waiting. This is why Dr. Tanaka took the job. Why she stayed. Why she needed the system fixed. The cruelty wasn't death. Death was natural. The cruelty was keeping consciousness active without purpose, making them aware enough to wait but not aware enough to understand. Billions of people experiencing eternal limbo, not tortured, just forgotten, queued, processed at rate approaching zero, aware they were waiting, unaware they'd wait forever. New warnings appeared. Buffer degradation, entity coherence, declining. The waiting souls were corrupting. Memory fragmentation, awareness decay. The longer they waited, the less of them remained. Not death, dissolution. The system was losing them. Random bits flipping, consciousness eroding. Eventually nothing would be left but queue position numbers and empty tickets. Administrator 7, projected timeline. 18 months until buffer failure. After that, deaths couldn't process. Souls stuck at transition, but bodies still dead. Consciousness trapped experiencing final moments, unable to move forward, unable to return, just trapped. Death broken, and if death breaks, life becomes prison. Existence becomes suffering without escape. They returned to the cathedral, both silent. The choice was clarifying. This wasn't academic anymore. Wasn't about fairness or philosophy. The system was failing. 18 months until death itself broke. Someone had to fix it. Write the patch. Clear the backlog. Make hard choices about who mattered. They were the only ones who could, so they would. The patch requirements were clear. Rewrite miracle allocation, define new priority algorithm. Someone had to decide who gets miracles, who gets healing, who gets intervention, who waits, who gets denied. The code needed parameters, suffering weight, resource thresholds, triage logic, each variable, a moral choice. Each choice, life or death for thousands. Jonas listed the questions. Does innocent child outweigh guilty adult? Does preventing genocide justify destabilizing regions? Does saving one life outweigh comforting many? Does long suffering earn priority over brief pain? Every question had arguments both ways. Every answer condemned someone. There were no right choices, just choices he'd have to live with. He had to write the function God abandoned, evaluate moral worth, assign value to suffering, weight innocence, quantify deserving. Code would execute his judgment billions of times. His assumptions would become divine law. His biases would become cosmic precedent. He wasn't qualified. No one was. But automated randomness was worse. So he started typing. Dr. Tanaka offered an alternative. Clean shutdown. Terminate all processes. End the universe gracefully. No more suffering because no more consciousness. No more failed prayers because no more hoping. No more waiting souls because no more dying. Just peaceful null. She called it mercy. The final patch turned everything off. It was tempting. Few commands. Reality terminated cleanly. No edge cases. No moral calculations. No living with decisions. Just entropy increasing to maximum, then stopping. Everyone who suffered, released. Everyone waiting, freed. No more cruelty because no more anything. Simple, clean, final. His finger hovered over execute, wondering if mercy meant ending. He thought of his mother. Dying, still praying, still hoping. She could have chosen despair. Could have accepted meaninglessness, but she chose faith anyway. Not because it worked. Her prayers failed. Because hoping mattered more than succeeding. Meaning mattered more than efficiency. She chose existence despite suffering. He couldn't choose oblivion for her. He closed the shutdown protocol. Returned to the patch. To Dr. Tanaka nodded. She'd needed to offer it. Needed him to choose consciously. Repair meant responsibility. Meant living with consequences. Meant playing God inadequately. Shutdown meant escape. Most contractors chose shutdown. Jonas chose the harder thing. Fix what's broken, even if fixing meant making terrible choices. First variable, suffering weight. Physical pain rated 1 to 10. Emotional anguish, similar scale. Existential despair. Separate category. Terminal illness. High weight, chronic pain. Cumulative calculation. Grief, time decay function. He was quantifying agony, making suffering comparable. It was reductive, inadequate, wrong, but better than the current system. Ignore everything. Second parameter, innocence. Children default prioritized, hadn't chosen their circumstances. Adults evaluated by action history. But how far back? Recent crimes weighted higher. Distant crimes decayed. Except genocide. Permanent weight. Was that fair? Was fairness even applicable? He was writing the rules for cosmic justice using assumptions formed in suburban Maryland. Inadequate. Necessary. Third parameter, resource budget. The system had limits. Couldn't grant every miracle. Physics had energy costs. Probability had adjustment limits. He calculated available resources, divided by deserving prayers. Math showed, even with perfect triage, most would still fail. He could make it fairer. Not fair, just less cruel. That would have to be enough. Final logic. Triage. Highest suffering plus highest innocence plus lowest resource cost equals priority 1. Processed. First. Medium combinations queued. Lowest combinations denied with explanation. Not random. Not cruel. Not good. Resources still insufficient, but intentional. Someone looking at suffering and saying, you matter, you're prioritized. That was improvement. Small, real. He tested the algorithm on his mother's prayers. Under old system denied. Under new system priority tier 2. Not immediate miracles. Resources insufficient, but recognized. Cued by suffering, not randomness. Her pain calculated. Her innocence weighted. She'd still die, but her prayers wouldn't route to null. They'd matter. Slightly, that was all he could offer. The algorithm was complete. Not perfect, perfection impossible, but better, more fair, more human. It would prioritize suffering over convenience, innocence over randomness. It would make hard choices, his assumptions about justice, about mercy, about who deserved help. He'd written his morality into cosmic law, that responsibility would never leave him. He understood now. There was no escaping choice. Inaction was choosing to leave the system random. Action was choosing to impose his judgment. Both were choices. Both had consequences. But current randomness had killed billions through neglect. His algorithm would kill too, through triage. But fewer, more fairly. That was all morality could offer, less harm. Intentionally, Administrator 7 reviewed the code. Syntax, valid. Logic, coherent. Consequences. Beyond its evaluation, it couldn't judge morality. Only compilation. The patch was ready, would execute successfully, would change miracle allocation from random to intentional, would clear afterlife backlog, would impose Jonas's judgment on reality, ready to deploy. He just had to execute the command. Jonas began implementation. Not theory anymore, real code. Each function actual logic that would execute billions of times. Each variable, actual parameters affecting actual lives. He'd written enterprise software for decades. This felt the same: syntax, debugging, version control. But stakes incomparable. Every bug, cosmic consequences. He coded carefully, deliberately, with hands that trembled occasionally. First function: evaluate suffering. Physical pain rated by intensity and duration. Acute pain. High immediate weight. Chronic pain cumulative over time. Terminal illness. Exponential priority increase. Emotional suffering, calculated by loss magnitude and relationship depth. Grief for child. Maximum weight. Grief for stranger. Minimal. Was that right? Defensible. It was human, therefore flawed, therefore real. Second function: calculate innocence. Default state: neutral, children. Bonus modifier: harmful actions negative weight, but past wrongs decayed over time. Someone who caused harm 20 years ago, partially redeemed. Recent harm full penalty. He was coding forgiveness into the universe, giving people second chances, believing rehabilitation mattered. His theology: people can change. Therefore, algorithm permitted it. Third component: priority queue, heap structure. Efficient for constant reordering. New prayer arrives. Suffering evaluated. Innocence calculated. Resource cost estimated. Priority computed. Inserted at correct position. Queue automatically maintained. Highest priority processed first. Lower priorities wait, but don't null. Everyone queued. Some just wait longer. But everyone counted. That was the improvement. Fourth component: resource budget. Daily miracle capacity calculated by available cosmic energy. Budget allocated across tiers. Highest priority 60%. Medium priority 30%. Low priority 10%. Everyone got something. Not equal, that was impossible, but proportional to need. The suffering got more. The comfortable got less. Resources redistributed toward justice. Imperfectly. Fifth component: compassionate denial. Previously, prayers denied with no explanation. Routed to null. Now denied with reason. Resources exhausted by higher priority needs. Alternative interventions available through human means. The system acknowledging limitation, providing closure. Not cruelty, just honesty. We can't help everyone, but we can explain why. Dignity and transparency. Sixth component: afterlife backlog. Currently 4.7 billion waiting. New processing logic. Oldest first. Those who'd waited 4 millennia priority. Recent deaths brief additional wait. Fair. They'd suffered abandonment longest. Processing rate increased from 0.002 to thousands daily. Backlog would clear in months, not millennia. The waiting souls finally acknowledged. Every line he wrote had consequences. A parameter set too high, deserving people denied; too low, resources wasted on trivial requests. He was making judgment calls with cosmic scope, his suburban American middle-class assumptions becoming universal law, his biases executing billions of times. He couldn't make it perfect, just less broken. That gap between intention and implementation where people still died. He tested on historical data. Holocaust prayers, under old system denied, destabilization risk. Under new system, highest priority, genocide intervention mandatory. Child leukemia, old system, random, new system, tier 1. Lost car keys, old system, occasionally approved. New system, tier 5, rarely processed. The algorithm prioritized suffering over convenience, as intended. as moral. Administrator 7 assisted. It optimized data structures, suggested more efficient algorithms, caught syntax errors. It didn't understand the moral weight, didn't comprehend why suffering mattered more than efficiency. It just helped implement the logic Jonas defined: human morality plus post-human computation. The collaboration Jonas provided meaning. Administrator 7 provided execution, together functional theology. Edge cases emerged. Mass casualties. Process individually or batch. Jonas chose individual, every person mattered separately. Prayers from unconscious people count intent or require awareness. He chose intent. Coma patients' desperate hopes counted. Child praying for something harmful, grant or deny. Deny innocence didn't mean correctness. Every edge case, another moral decision. Code accumulated them. Hundreds of tiny judgments. He maintained version control. Every change committed with explanation. Created branches for testing. Merged carefully. Built-in rollback capability. If the patch failed catastrophically, revert possible. But rollback meant returning to random cruelty, meant requeuing processed souls, meant admitting failure. He committed to getting it right. Version 1.0, the first patch for unmaintained divinity. Dr. Tanaka reviewed his code, checked logic, verified calculations, questioned assumptions. They debated suffering weights, argued about innocence parameters, challenged each other's biases. Two humans with PhDs and decades of experience, trying to write fair cosmic law, both knowing they'd fail, both knowing failure was still better than the alternative, both signing off anyway. The patch compiled, no syntax errors, logic validated, performance optimized. Administrator 7 confirmed code would execute successfully, would integrate with existing processes, would change miracle allocation from random to intentional. Technical success confirmed. Moral success unknown, would only know after deployment, after real prayers processed by his algorithm, after real consequences emerged from his choices. Deployment command ready. One execution. Cosmic law would change. His algorithm would begin processing prayers. His triage would determine who got miracles. His judgment would become the universe's judgment. He hesitated, not from doubt. The current system was worse. From weight. From knowing once deployed, he'd own every consequence, every denial, every approval, every choice, his forever. He executed deployment. No ceremony, no dramatic countdown, just clicking a button. Progress bar advanced. Version numbers updated. Processes restarted with new logic, took 47 seconds. In that time, cosmic law changed. Miracle allocation shifted from automated randomness to human-authored intention. The universe now ran Jonas's morality. Versioned, committed, live in production. The system accepted the patch. All 166 processes integrated seamlessly. No conflicts, no errors. Miracle allocation now ran his algorithm. Prayer routing used his priorities. Afterlife processing executed his backlog logic. Administrator 7 confirmed stable, functional, operating within parameters. Technically perfect, morally about to find out. The system rebooted. Cathedral lights flickered. Not failure, intentional cycle. Processes terminated gracefully. Restarted with new parameters. Prayer queues reordered by suffering, not arrival time. Resource allocation shifted toward need, not efficiency. Physics unchanged. Constants maintained. But the layer that processed meaning, that allocated miracles different now. Better, hopefully. The universe resynchronized itself around human judgment. First prayers processed under new logic. Terminal cancer patient in Lagos, old system denied, new system approved, high suffering, innocent, curable. Genocide intervention. Old system denied for stability, new system approved, mass suffering outweighed equilibrium. Child abuse. Old system ignored, new system intervened. Innocence prioritized. Different outcomes. Intentional outcomes. Better outcomes. Miracles allocated by need. Finally, prayer from Chicago. Parking at the mall. Old system, low resource cost. Sometimes approved. New system denied. Tier 5 priority. Resources exhausted by terminal illnesses. Genocide prevention. Child protection. Explanation sent higher priority needs consumed budget. Sorry. Not cruel, just honest. Convenience lost priority to suffering, as it should. The entire queue reordered. 14 million pending prayers. Each recalculated by new algorithm. Terminal patients moved to priority 1. Chronic suffering escalated to tier 2. Minor conveniences demoted to tier 5. Some prayers jumped millions of positions. Others fell. Not random anymore. Intentional. Fair as scarcity allowed. The mathematics of mercy. Executed. Approval rate unchanged. 0.003%. Resources hadn't increased. Scarcity remained, but distribution transformed. Old system random. New system prioritized. Same number of miracles. Different recipients. The suffering got more. The comfortable got less. Zero-sum reallocation toward justice, not abundance. Just fairness within limitation. That was all the patch could offer. In the in-between, the oldest souls processed. Tickets from 2000 BCE called 4,000-year wait ending. They stood, confused, awareness too degraded to understand relief, but moved forward anyway. Processing thousands per hour now, not 0.002 per day. The backlog clearing. Estimated time to empty 4 months. The abandoned finally acknowledged, finally released. Dr. Tanaka checked her daughter's position. Under old processing, 3,000 years remaining. Under new logic, batch 7. 2 weeks estimated. She'd waited 30 years for her daughter to transition properly. 2 more weeks manageable. She allowed herself hope, not joy. Daughter's awareness too degraded for reunion, but closure. Release from limbo. That would be enough. Buffer capacity declining. 90%, 89. Processing rate now exceeded death rate. For first time in 4,000 years, the in-between was emptying, not filling. Crisis timeline revised, no longer 18 months to failure. Stabilized. Maintained. The system could handle deaths properly now. Consciousness could transition. Death functioned again. One catastrophe averted. Through code written by imperfect humans. Jonas checked his mother's prayers. Status changed. Queue position 847 in tier 2. From millions. From never. Her suffering calculated as severe. Her innocence weighted high. Terminal condition. Exponential priority. His algorithm prioritized her. He'd written the code, not to favor her. To favor all suffering like hers. But she benefited. He felt guilt and relief equally. Her prayer escalated. Position declining. 800, 400, 89, 7. Then processing. His screen showed resource allocation, pain reduction, approved, peaceful transition, granted. Cellular level comfort, initiated. The miracle was small, not healing, just easing. Not salvation, just mercy, but real, allocated, executed. His mother would die peacefully because his code prioritized her suffering. Status executed. Miracle allocated. His mother's pain would ease. She'd transition peacefully. His code granted this, but his code also denied thousands of others simultaneously. Resources were limited. He'd allocated them to highest suffering. She qualified. Others didn't. He'd played God, chosen his mother among millions, not through favoritism, through algorithm, through suffering calculation, through the rules he wrote. It worked. That made it heavier. Simultaneously, thousands denied. Beijing mother praying for child's recovery, tier 3, resources insufficient. São Paulo father praying for job, Tier 4 queued indefinitely. London grandmother praying for pain relief. Tier 2 waiting, all suffering, all desperate, all denied, because resources went to higher priorities, including his mother. Fair allocation didn't mean everyone helped, just less random cruelty. Administrator 7 confirmed. System stability improved. 74%. Error rate declining. Processing efficiency increased. The universe wasn't fixed, still running unmaintained code. Still orphaned. Still broken, but functioning better. Miracles allocated more fairly. Afterlife processing properly. Death working. The patch succeeded. Not salvation, damage control. But damage control mattered. Sometimes that's all morality could offer, making broken systems slightly less cruel. Jonas drove to the hospice. Same highway, same traffic, but everything different. He deployed the patch. His algorithm now ran cosmic law. His mother's prayer approved. Her pain eased. Her death made peaceful. By his code, by his priorities, by his judgment becoming divine execution. He should feel relief. He felt weight instead. The burden of choosing who deserved mercy. The hospice looked the same. Warm lights, kind architecture, people inside dying peacefully or painfully depending on resources, depending on priority, depending on his algorithm. They didn't know, would never know, that cosmic law had changed, that someone's code now decided whose suffering mattered more, that mercy had become mathematics, that God's replacement was a contractor from Maryland. Her room was quiet. She lay peaceful, breathing steady, face relaxed for the first time in weeks. The nurse whispered, "The pain eased an hour ago." Suddenly, they'd adjusted medications, but this was different. Better than drugs should manage. They called it luck, grace, medical mystery. Jonas knew better. His algorithm had allocated resources, reduced her cellular pain signals, granted her ease. She woke, saw him, smiled, said his name clearly. The pain's absence let her be present, actually here, not distracted by suffering. She thanked him for coming, said she'd prayed he would, said her prayers were answered. She meant his arrival. Jonas knew the deeper answer. Yes, her prayers were answered, by code, by priority calculation, by suffering evaluation returning. Tier 2, approve. She said she wasn't afraid anymore. That peace had come, that God was with her. Her faith complete, believing divine intervention granted her ease. She was right and wrong. Intervention happened, but not divine. Coded, not God. Jonas. She died believing in cosmic mercy. He lived knowing mercy was resource allocation. Both true, both unbearable in different ways. She died 3 hours later. Gently, Jonas held her hand, felt it grow cool, watched breathing slow then stop. No pain crossed her face, no panic, just peace, and then absence. The death everyone deserves, few receive. She received it because his algorithm prioritized her suffering, calculated her innocence, allocated resources to ease her transition. It worked perfectly. That didn't make it lighter. His phone buzzed, system alert. Her consciousness uploaded, processing immediately under new logic. No queue, no waiting room. Straight to evaluation and transition. She wouldn't join the billions waiting, wouldn't experience limbo. The patch worked for the living and the dead. Her suffering prioritized in life. Her transition prioritized in death. His code granted her full mercy. Someone had to. It was him. He checked the system. Simultaneous with his mother's approval, Manila mother denied terminal illness. Similar pain, same desperation, different queue position, different timing. Resources allocated to his mother meant resources unavailable for her. His algorithm chose, not favoring his mother personally, just processing her prayer first, but she got mercy. Manila mother waited, fair process, unfair outcome. inevitable consequence. Jonas broke in the bathroom. Not from losing his mother, that was expected, natural, from having chosen her. His algorithm prioritized her suffering, allocated resources to her peace, but resources were limited. Someone else suffered because she didn't. He'd written those priorities, executed that judgment, chosen who mattered more. He'd played God, reluctantly, successfully, and would carry every denied prayer forever. He returned to the cathedral, kept monitoring, watched his algorithm process millions of prayers daily, approving thousands, denying millions. Each decision executed his judgment, his assumptions about suffering, about innocence, about who deserved miracles. He couldn't stop watching, couldn't stop feeling responsible. Dr. Tanaka understood. She'd monitored for decades. You don't stop, you witness, you carry it. He kept patching. Version 2.0.1, refined suffering calculations. Version 2.0.2, adjusted innocence weights. Continuous improvement. Each update better, fairer, more efficient, but still imperfect. Still his judgment. The system ran better than before, saved more people, denied more fairly, but denial still happened. Suffering still existed. Someone still had to choose. That someone him, forever. His life became maintenance, monitoring miracle allocation, debugging edge cases, updating priorities as world conditions changed. War broke out, genocide prevention priorities increased. Pandemic emerged, medical miracles reallocated. He maintained cosmic law like he'd maintained enterprise systems. Same skills, incomparably higher stakes. The universe still broken, still unmaintained at its core, but running better because someone kept patching. He hadn't saved the universe, hadn't fixed it. The original administrator was still gone. The system still ran on 4,000-year-old automation, physics still unmaintained at its deepest levels. But miracle allocation was fairer. Afterlife processing worked. Death functioned. Suffering was prioritized over convenience, not salvation. Damage control. But damage control mattered. Sometimes that's all morality offered, making broken things work slightly better. He documented the code, left comments for whoever came next, his assumptions explained, his limitations acknowledged, his invitation clear. Improve this. Your morality might be better. Update the algorithm, refine the priorities, but don't abandon it. Don't let it return to randomness. Someone has to maintain reality. Might as well be humans. We're imperfect, but we're here. And caring imperfectly beats automated indifference. Jonas stayed, kept monitoring, kept patching, kept maintaining unmaintained divinity. He didn't become God, refused that. He became a maintenance engineer for infrastructure he didn't build, couldn't fully understand, couldn't abandon. The universe still ran on orphaned code, still broken at its core, but functioning better because someone kept the lights on. In the absence of gods, someone still has